Welcome to the Create a Life That Is Beautiful podcast, your go-to resource for personal development and coaching. I'm your host, Letitia Ringe, and I'm so glad you're here. Welcome back to the podcast, everyone. I'm Letitia Ringe, your coach and host, and it's a pleasure to be here with you all today. So today's episode is all about intentional professional development and creating a world-class offer for your business or brand. Now, this is for you no matter where you're at in your business or brand journey. If you're just starting out, if you're established, if you've got a validated core offer for your business, if you're growing your validated offer to its first 6 figures, or if you're scaling beyond that. It is for all of us, and it's such an important topic that we must focus on because it's also actually a subject that is very rarely spoken about in the business coaching industry, in the coaching and personal development industry, and in business and leadership in general. And yet, without intentional professional development and creating a world-class offer for your business, you will not have the holistic business success and fulfillment that you desire. And so I've promised that I will share more on this topic, and I have modified the way that I support my clients to make sure that professional development and creating this world-class offer for you, which is not a one and done thing, it is a continual, lifelong process, is at the core of the way I support you and my clients. So in today's episode, I'm going to tell you what intentional professional development actually is. This is a concept I've created. It's incredibly important, and it will set you up to not only create a world-class offer, but also a world-class business. It will support you to create more income in your business, to have the impact and to fulfill whatever the purpose is of your business. It'll also help you to feel fulfilled in the work that you're doing and to use your zones of genius in the best possible way that you can. It'll also support you to make a positive contribution to the world and to the lives of your clients. So it's really, really important. I'm going to be explaining what intentional professional development has to do with being world-class and why actually going for, aiming to be world-class matters to you, to your clients, and to the world. I'll also be talking about how it specifically helps to grow a thriving, heart-centered, impact-driven business that allows you to thrive, and also exactly what intentional professional development involves and how I can support you with that. Before we dive into today's episode, I want to remind you that if you haven't yet signed up for my free online course called World Class, I highly recommend you do that. It will be a great follow on after today's episode and will give you plenty of journal prompts, coaching questions, analogies, examples that will allow you to dive deeper into building a world-class strategy and plan for your business. You can find that at letitiaringe.com/world-class. Also, I remind you that I'm currently enrolling into my hybrid one-to-one business coaching and business mastermind program. This is for you if you're a woman in business or a woman working in the coaching and personal development industry. It doesn't matter what phase of your business you're at. This is for you if you want to continue exploring your world-class potential and you want a container that will support you in a one-to-one capacity as well as in a mastermind with both business strategy as well as leadership, as well as developing your world-class offer and craft and providing this intentional professional development process, which enables you to do that. We take a holistic approach, which means we look not only at your business and leadership and your professional component of your life, but also at your life as a whole. We also look at your relationship with growth and transformation and you as a woman, as an individual, and as a human, how we enable you to thrive in terms of your physical body, in terms of your mental health, in terms of your energy and capacity in this season of your life. And we draw on all of these areas to come up with a holistic approach to your business that enables you to have a clear strategy that works for this season of your business, that continues to explore and position you for your next layer of your world-class potential and gives you all the support, the one-to-one partnership with a coach and mentor, that's me, journey, as well as the peer support you need to bounce off and collaborate with others so that you can show up in the best possible way and also enjoy your business journey in the best possible way too. You can find all of the details for that at letitiaringe.com/she's world class. This is our one and only intake for 2025, and we'll be starting together on the 14th of July. Enrollment is closing soon, so make sure you head to letitiaringe.com/she's world class, book in an application call so you and I can meet and talk through exactly what we'll be working on together, and then we will go from there. Okay, now let's talk about intentional professional development and creating a world-class offer. Here's the thing that I need you to know about creating a successful business or brand. For the ease of reference, for the rest of this episode, I'm just going to refer to creating a successful business rather than a brand. But I want you to know, if you're someone who does not consider yourself to be a business owner, but you're providing some sort of service, most likely, maybe it's a product, but more likely to be a service to an employer, you can use everything you're learning in this world-class series to support yourself too. Okay, so for the rest of this episode, though, I'm just going to say business. So in a business, your offer is the most important part of your business. Your offer is your product or service. Your product or service that you sell must be something that sells, i.e., people want what you're offering, so they're buying it. It must also be effective at what it says it's going to do. And you must have some sort of fulfillment in providing that product or service. These three things will create success. Now, if you didn't listen to the previous episode I did, all about how to create a successful business, I recommend you go back and listen to that episode as well, because I gave you some information about how to define success for your individual business. And I also clearly and very simply explained the three components that are needed to create any form of business or brand success. So if you haven't listened to that episode, go back to episode 291 and please listen to it and then listen to this episode. So, in order to create success in terms of our own personal fulfillment, in terms of financial success, as well as having a successful offer that does what it says it's going to do, we need to focus on our product or service as the number one thing we focus on in our business. Now, what I have found is that the way that we're generally supported through our business journey is with two other focuses. One is on support for learning business skills like marketing and sales, developing a team, getting all the systems and processes up. So everything that goes into running a successful business. Or we go and get a certification to help us create a new skill that we can use and offer in our business. Then after we do that certification, maybe we go and do other certifications. We learn other modalities that help us to build on those skills. But what we don't focus on in either a business coaching or a certification context is our actual offer and our skills and craft and zones of genius that go into executing that offer. In fact, mostly we just take it for granted that the offer is successful as it can be. But here's the thing. The way we actually create a successful offer, which is what I would call a world-class offer, that is not a one and done thing. It is an ongoing, unending journey. And to understand this more deeply, I want you to think about anyone you consider to be at the top of their game in any industry, including sports, for instance. Those people are not the best at what they do because they, just created the skill once or achieved some sort of level of success or result once. It is because they are committed to continuing to nurture and develop their craft, those necessary skills that make up whatever that product or service is that they are offering. And they continue to learn. They must have a beginner's mindset in order to do that. They must also see themselves as being some sort of leader so that they get up and continue to work at it. They also will be looking at how they can improve, how they can innovate. And it's through these things, beginner's mindset, seeing yourself as a leader, looking for refinement and innovation, that has you keeping your offer and your craft competitive in the market. It's what makes it world-class. But what I think has happened is that we believe we learn it once and we should just be good at it. And if there's any room for improvement, then this means we're doing something wrong. And I think that this particularly impacts us as women because we are typically educated and socialized to, follow education, to consume what we learn, to then be able to regurgitate it. And we are not encouraged to then make it our own and to innovate with that information. In fact, that's how men are socialized, but not us as women, which is why as adults, part of what most coaches are doing in terms of women's leadership and working with women is getting them reconnected back to that intuitive, instinctual, innovative part of us that is actually leading and innovating, creating new things rather than just regurgitating what we're taught. So when it comes to certifications, while they're so helpful, what that can lead us to doing is simply regurgitating what we've learned rather than looking at how we can put our unique spin on it. How do we make it our own? And then how do we learn from our actual experiences with our clients to make what our product or service is the best it can be? So I gave a workshop recently where I talked about this topic in detail, and I mentioned that I was reading this book called On Becoming a Person by Carl Rogers, and this is where I had this realization. As I was reading Carl's book, the entire book is all about transformation and what is effective. Carl Rogers is a very famous psychotherapist, and in this book, it's a collection of papers he's written after reviewing his experiences with clients and what he's learned over many, many years of working with clients. And in these papers, he's already gotten to a level of being world-class in what he does. He's industry leading. He's recognized by his peers in the industry as a leader in the industry. And yet he doesn't stop there. He's not like, hey, I know everything about people and transformation. Instead, he is always learning from his ongoing experiences and work with his clients. He's always looking for areas to improve while looking at these areas he could improve from a very neutral lens. He's not taking that on board and saying, you suck because there's room for improvement or because this wasn't as effective as you think it could be. Instead, he's constantly refining. Like, because I'm the expert, I keep noticing areas where it could be refined. And I have to be able, in order to do that, recognize that while I want to strive for perfection, have the best offer, the most effective offer that I can be, I also have to recognize that there will always be room for improvement, no matter what. And it's that nuance, balancing those two things, that actually positions you to be world-class. I was so taken with this realization I had as I read his book that I realized this is a piece that is missing from the support that we have as people in business and people who work in the coaching and personal development industry. And so this is where things started turning in my mind. How can we go deeper into this? What is needed? What do I need? And how can I support the people that I work with in order to make sure that we're truly professionally developing our offers and our key skills in executing those offers in the best way possible? So this is where I created intentional professional development. And it's so important particularly for those of you who do work in the coaching and personal development industry, because professional development is not required for most of us. For some therapists, it is, but the term therapist means lots of different things at this point. For many people, even those who consider themselves to be therapists, you don't have ongoing professional development as a requirement. But in many other industries, ongoing professional development of your key practical skills is actually a requirement in order to stay being able to call yourself like a coach or a therapist. For instance, when I was a lawyer, it was called continuing education in Australia. And we had to continue to reach a certain amount of credit points by going out and continuing to learn and practice our skills and meet certain assessment requirements so that we could keep calling ourselves a lawyer. Now, that's not required in most modalities in coaching and personal development. And for many of you who work in online business outside of the coaching and personal development industry, it's the same for you. So there's no regulatory body who's forcing you to continue professionally developing your skills. And while I think that that's a great thing in some senses, in other ways it's not, because we can actually miss out on something that's really important to the work we do. Equally, when you work with a business coach, someone like me, we assume that your offer and your skills are as effective as they can be. We help you with everything else, marketing and selling it, delivering it, building a team around it. Of course, there will be parts where we're helping you with your confidence or helping you get better at the actual offer and refine it. But it's usually not an intentional professional development process that has you developing those skills and keeping yourself competitive in the work you do. And so that's what I've created instead. So intentional professional development is a concept to recognize that fundamental to your business success is ensuring that you have a world-class offer. And in order to have a world-class offer, you must have an intentional professional development process. Your intentional professional development process will intentionally develop your key skills needed to offer and provide your product or service. Now, I always say this. I highly recommend that when you think about your business, you think about having one core offer in your business to begin with. I recommend that you focus on getting that offer to a place where it's generating whatever your financial sustainability figure is, which for many of you is 6 figures. I don't know why, but for a lot of people it is. And so that's why we talk about a 6-figure business, because that generally means financial sustainability. I recommend that you focus on one offer generating whatever that financial sustainability goal is. And even if you want to make more than whatever financial sustainability means to you, focus on how can this one offer do that? The reason you want to do that is to make things simpler for you and also to get you thinking at a higher standard when it comes to your offer. If this offer had to generate $200,000 on its own in 1 year, what would need to happen to make it that valuable? This helps you think at a higher level, and it also helps you to see the value in making this offer as best as it can be. So we start by focusing on your core offer in your business, and then we're going to look at what skills are needed to execute that core offer. What is your craft? What are the key skills that might be supplementary to that craft that are essential in executing that offer or service and providing it to your clients? And also, what are your zones of genius that are involved with your offer or service and executing it to your clients? For instance, if I'm a coach, the craft is coaching. Some supplementary skills that might go into that could include things like transformation and personal development. Right? I've got to help them move through a transformational process. So that's going to be one of my core skills that I need to be up to date on at all times. In terms of my zones of genius, maybe what I'm really good at is group facilitation. For instance, with me, one of my zones of genius is group facilitation, which is why I offer mastermind and group spaces to my clients, like my world-class offer or my previous mastermind, which was my holistic business mistress mind. These skills are the key core skills in my business that are essential to my offer that I must continue to professionally develop in order to remain effective in what I do. Just because I've learned how to facilitate groups, just because I've learned how to coach, just because I've learned about transformation and personal development, and I've got certifications in all of these things, does not mean that my offer, my product and service will always be the best it can be. What makes it world-class, what keeps it competitive, what keeps me the most effective at what I provide is my ongoing professional development and review of all of these skills. Now, here's the next piece of the process. So that's what we're looking at. We're looking at your core offer. We're then looking at the key core skills that are required to provide that offer. Then how do we actually develop it? Well, there's 3 things that are required. First, you're going to be using your expert mind to review and reflect upon the room for improvement. Okay, so there's you. But then in addition, we need other perspectives to bounce off, to expand our awareness because we're so close up to the details, it's really hard to see what that room for improvement is. And if you've got trouble receiving feedback or you think that your offer has to be perfect, it will also be really hard to see any room for improvement, which keeps you stuck, right? So secondly, we need peer review. We need people maybe who work in our industry or maybe who have a professional opinion that would be important to what we're providing, who are able to give feedback on our product or service so that we can consider other areas that we could improve. Now, the problem with this is that you might get feedback that isn't important for you to take on board. You're not here to regurgitate what everybody else is doing. You're here to innovate. And so you also need to learn how to differentiate when something is worth taking on and when it's not. And that's a skill. So peer review is really, really important. And that's why I truly believe in the power of a mastermind and groups when it's done in a very intentional way in order to help you with that. And that's part of what we'll be doing in World Class. The third piece is partnership. This is where coaching and mentorship, working with someone like me for and on this comes into play. Often, the person that you work with doesn't have a very intimate understanding of the client perspective of your product or service. You get that from your clients, which is also important, but the client doesn't know what they don't know. So working with someone one-to-one and getting that partnership, mentorship and coaching support on your actual product or service so that you can see rooms for possible improvement is also really important. So the process that I've created for intentional professional development involves you knowing how to look at and refine your products and services. It involves implementing peer review in a very intentionally led way. And it also involves coaching and mentorship partnership support. So that one-to-one, very close partnership relationship that you have to help you also work on some of those blind spots, to help you review your products and services and also see room for improvement. Now, in order to make all of this effective, like I said before, we also need to work on some mindset things like being open to feedback, knowing how to differentiate between something that's feedback that's not worth acting on and feedback that is worth acting on, and also being able to hold the nuance and the balance of I always have a beginner's mindset. I'm always learning more. And at the same time, I'm a leader and an expert in my industry. And my expertise is what makes those decisions. And I'm always looking to innovate. Being able to hold all of these things at once is a balance. It requires nuance. And so that's something that we work on through this intentional professional development process. Now, why this matters is because if you can keep your core product or service for your business competitive, which means it is generating sales, it is being effective in what it's meant to do, And it also remains fulfilling for you, which, by the way, your fulfillment will come from continuing to always refine and develop your product or service. That's what keeps it fulfilling and interesting. It's not, hey, I've created it, it's one and done, it never needs any work again, and so I'm never going to think about it again. That rarely is going to keep you fulfilled, right? So this is where you can also find the fulfillment you're seeking, because a lot of business owners, once they hit on what works, they get bored. This is a big part of scaling. There's a real desire to blow up the business because people get bored. But this is where we can keep it interesting. So you focus on an intentional professional development process for your core product or service in your business. This is what enables you to keep it interesting for you, to keep the offer as effective as possible, and to continue making sales in your business. This is an absolute foundation for your business or your brand. Without that, it makes marketing and sales so much harder. It makes client retention so much harder, and it also affects your actual fulfillment in what you do. So we want to focus here first, which then will ease up everything else you do from a business lens. And it will also mean maybe even focusing less on getting new certifications and more on how deep can you go with the skills you already have. Like, how can you get a better coach through not needing to learn another new coaching certification, but actually just going deeper on the coaching skills you're actually using on a day-to-day basis. That's going to take you to a whole other level. It's what makes you world class. And this is why I've called my new business offering, which is replacing all of my other business offerings I've held to date, world class. It's not about being world class and attaining a world class business. It's about the unending journey that striving for being world class brings. And it's that journey where all of the fulfillment and all of your business success comes from. So if this hits your heart and you know that this is the way you want to show up for the work you do, for your craft, if you know you want to be industry leading, you want to be world class at what you do, not for ego reasons, but because you truly want to create something that is effective over the long term, and you want to put your very intelligent mind to creating something that can be the best it can be, you're the kind of person I want in world class. I'm gathering a small group of women who would join me for 5 months beginning on the 14th of July. And together over those 5 months, you and I will work 1-to-1, 2 coaching sessions a month. And then we will also work in a small group mastermind, women all committed to this world-class journey. And once a month, we will gather and we will create a mastermind where we will help each other to access, operate, and explore our world-class potential when it comes to our offers, as well as to the way we show up for our lives and our businesses. If you are a woman in business or you're a woman working in the coaching and personal development industry, this is for you. I'm enrolling now, and all you need to do is book in an application call at letitiaringe.com/she's world class so that you and I can meet. I can find out about everything that's going on in your business and life right now, and then we can decide how we will use world class together, what the process will look like for you, and then from there you can make a decision about whether you'd like to join us. I recommend you get in touch today because enrollment is closing shortly, and it will close as soon as all places are filled. This is our only intake for 2025, and I'm so excited to work with those of you who are called to join us. All right, my beautiful friends, if you have any questions about intentional professional development and what we've discussed in today's episode, please feel free to reach out to me over on Instagram at Letitia Ringe. I love having conversations with you there. You'll also notice I've been sharing lots of information recently about my recent weight loss journey, which has been a journey I've been on for a few years now. It has been an incredible journey. It's taught me a lot about transformation, also a lot of parallels to how to be successful in business have shown up in the success of my weight loss journey, and I've really enjoyed sharing over there. Many of you have been messaging me about it, comments, all of the things. So come and join at Letitia Ringe over on Instagram. And let's keep learning from each other about how to show up in the best possible way in business, leadership, transformation, coaching, personal development, and life. I'll see you there. Thank you for listening to the Create a Life That Is Beautiful podcast, your go-to resource for personal development and coaching. To deepen your learning and practice, make sure you're subscribed to receive our community newsletter. Subscribe at letitiaringe.com/newsletter. And if you haven't yet left a 5-star review for the podcast, we ask that you please do that now so that this podcast can reach other listeners who also want to join us in creating a life that is beautiful.